Gustloff is a symbol of hope. But she's in a restricted military area. No one gets on without a pass.
We were registered. We were in the Navy. We had papers we could present. We belonged.
There are tickets for especially big families and for some privileged categories.
They sorted through these people, checking for party membership. That still counted at first. But the people on the quayside were hungry. They were thirsty. They were freezing. They pushed their way onto the ship. They couldn't do anything about it. They had to let them on.
By the 30th of January, no one is keeping a record of who's on board the Gustloff. Jürgen Danöl and his family are simply happy to be there.
Mother said, "Now we've made it, children. No more wet gloves, no wet feet." It was a poem, it was hope.
And still they pile on board. By the end, there are probably well over 10,000 passengers.
In all the great salons, people were lying next to each other, mattress next to mattress, one with a mother and two children, and everything completely full. The smell got stronger and stronger. Babies pooed in their nappies. The old people couldn't make it to the toilets because the corridors were too crowded.
Naval Auxiliary Ursula Rezas is on board with her sister Rosemarie. They've grabbed a corner in one of the salons.
There were 300 naval auxiliaries. They were all billeted in the swimming pool, and we wanted to join them. But there wasn't any room left, so we were stuck in the corner of a salon.
The Navy girls are happy to be safe on the great ship. But the Gustloff's officers are worried. The ship has not been to sea for 5 years. It's a long time since her glory days. There are too few lifeboats for this exceptional load, and the ship has suffered bomb damage.
They ordered extra lifeboats. They were in just as short supply as the life jackets. So they brought up big cutters and a crane, hoisted them onto the upper deck, and put them in position.
Rafts are loaded on too. There's still only capacity for half the passengers, but it hardly matters, even for people who should know better.
I thought, we're safe now, and this unsinkable ship is going to take us west.
For the past few months, Soviet submarines have been breaking through into the Baltic. As singletons, they haven't yet made a great impression.
In previous years, they had only limited success. So it could well be that the Germans rather underestimated the danger from Soviet submarines.
To protect merchant ships from torpedo attacks, you need escorts. But by 1945, cruisers and destroyers are in short supply in the Baltic. Even though they know of the submarine risk, the Gustloff decides not to wait for an escort. At 12:30 on 30th of January 1945, the Wilhelm Gustloff leaves harbour. By 3 o'clock, the Gustloff has reached the open sea, making for Kiel. On the bridge, there are heated discussions about the route she should be taking. The Gustloff's official captain is Friedrich Petersen. He's a merchant marine officer. On this occasion, there are 2 additional captains and a first officer with a captain's license. The 1,000 U-boat cadets on board are under the command of Lieutenant Commander Wilhelm Zahn. Arguments erupt on the bridge. particularly about the course they should take. There are two possibilities. If they stay close to the coast, they're safe from submarines, but these waters are mined. There's a deep water route known as Emergency Route 58, which is regularly swept clear of mines. Submarines could be lurking here, but if all goes well, this is the quicker route. Gustloff's U-boat crews are expected in Kiel as soon as possible. The captains decide on the faster route. Soviet submarine S-13 is cruising close to the Gustloff. It has been on patrol since the 11th of January 1945, with a clear mission.
Our mission was the same as always, to destroy the enemy. We were to look for transport ships and sink them.
S-13's commander, Alexander Marinesko, could do with a success. His patrol should have started on the 2nd of January, but he was on a bender and no one could find him. That is high treason. This is his last chance to redeem himself. He has yet to see a single German ship. Then S-13 receives a signal. The German freighters are beginning their evacuation to the west. On the Gustloff, the war seems far away.
Next to us there sat two East Prussian farmers' daughters, I think, plump and very gay and rosy cheeks. They were simply adorable, laughing and telling each other jokes and getting to know people, and there was a very good atmosphere on the ship.
16-year-old Eva Boden and her sister Dorrit are on the Gustloff with their mother. They're refugees from Copenhagen.
We felt we were already safe.
It could be a busy night on Emergency Route 58. Gustloff's commanders are concerned about a possible collision with other German ships in the dark. After a heated debate on the bridge, the captains decide to switch on the navigation lights. This is in contravention of all the rules. The Gustloff continues her progress. An hour later, the lights are switched off again. It's too late. S-13 has spotted her and takes up pursuit. S-13 is too slow to keep up with its target underwater. The Gustloff is advancing quickly. The submarine surfaces to increase its speed. Two hours later, by 8 p.m., S-13 has caught up with the Gustloff. The crew go to action stations. They know this is a sizable target.
From the sound, I could hear that it was a twin-screw ship. That meant it had to be very big. If it had been an ordinary freighter, it would have sounded like this. But you couldn't tell from the sound of the propellers whether it was a warship or not.
When he looked through his periscope, Marinesko could see that it was big, and it wasn't a warship. But he couldn't tell what it was carrying, wood or weapons or people. How could he tell that? He was simply pursuing a big transport ship. That was all. He was following his orders to sink large warships and freighters. And that's what he did.
Marinesco decides on a daring maneuver. He will sail right round the Gustloff and attack from the shore side. Gustloff's lookouts will be concentrating on the other direction. And this is the best chance he has to evade any escort ships in the darkness.
If we had been spotted by convoy escorts, that would have been the end of us. We would never have got out of there alive.
As S-13 describes its great loop around the Gustloff, on board the cruise ship, the passengers are reminded of something they had almost forgotten. Today is the 12th anniversary of Hitler's rise to power. The Führer addresses the nation. The tone has become familiar over the years. The need for a steadfast heart, the need to hold out everywhere under all circumstances, until the nation's efforts are finally crowned in victory.
Am Ende der Sieg unsere Anstrengungen krönt.
Suddenly there was an explosion, and a second, and a third, and there was a clanking sound.
And Mother yelled, "Children, out, out, we've hit a mine."
The first torpedo hit just aft of the bows and destroyed the crew's living quarters. The second exploded right under the swimming pool. The naval auxiliaries had no chance at all. The third torpedo hit the engine room and ripped through the side of the ship up to the railings. Anyone in the lower decks died within seconds.
Everyone was pushed towards the lower promenade deck. And of course that went for my sister Rosemary and me too. I had grabbed her hand and didn't let it go.
The lower promenade deck is entirely lined with safety glass. They're running into a trap.
My sister was standing beside me and I said to her, "Ulla, now we're going to die." "No," she said, and she grabbed my hand again.
I said, "No, we're not going to die. I don't want to die." And I took off my shoe and tried to break the window with it. But it didn't work. And then an officer, or one of the sailors, kept shooting at the window. And then we could push it out.
The two sisters are washed overboard, suddenly separated.
All of a sudden I realized there's water in my ears, in my nose, my mouth. God, I think, please let me lose consciousness. Let me die quickly. Just want to die quickly. And suddenly I've got air again.
On the upper decks, they're struggling with the boats. The life rafts are frozen, the davits iced up. It's a fight for survival.
A man wanted to get in, had a scarf around his head. He was shoving his way through. "I want to get into the boat, want to get in." And the sailor officer saw him and forced him back. "Women and children only. Women and children only." He was thrashing around. He just had to get onto the boat. And the officer shot him.
The ship is now listing hard to port. Passengers are holding on for dear life.
Beside me, a woman was hanging on, and next to her 2 children, and next to them a man. He was the only uniformed man I'd seen on board with a swastika armband. The woman kept screaming at him, "Finish it, finish it." Then he took out his pistol, still holding on with one hand, and first he shot the 2 little girls, and then his wife. And then he held the pistol to his own temple, and it didn't go off. He'd run out of bullets. He yelled at me, "Give me your pistol." And I shouted back, "I haven't got one." And then he let go and slid after his dead